Welcome back, and we now have experts joining us on the show to decode the latest announcement from Trump and what it means for India. David Johnston, American journalist and author, is now joining us. David, morning, and thanks so much for joining us today. 50% tariff on India, and 25% of it is because India purchases oil from Russia. Do you believe this is a negotiation tactic, especially because India has been given 21 additional days to negotiate further? How do you read this?
This is Donald Trump demonstrating two important things. One is he doesn't have an idea of what he's doing. He's clueless about this. He is his whole life, and I've covered him for almost 40 years, simply made things up as he goes along because he doesn't know anything. He's appallingly ignorant. Second, Donald Trump has no authority to impose tariffs. Under the American Constitution, and I teach this, taught at a law school for 15 years, Congress has the sole authority, with a very limited exception it's given to presidents, for short-term emergency tariffs to implement tariffs. And a tariff is a tax, ultimately a national sales tax on the consuming country, which would be the United States and the people of the United States. Donald, in the next 21 days, will no doubt flip-flop on this. He has flip-flopped constantly, given extensions, not acted, because there are no principles guiding Donald, and he doesn't know anything about economics.
Okay. Hi, David. This is Kanishka also joining in. You were just talking about U.S. consumers. So I just wanted to understand, you've previously written extensively on how tax policies actually create inequality. So in this, tariff war play with India getting 50%, tariffs, how do you see this playing out? Who will be the real winners and losers? And don't you think, if this high tariff is imposed, things are ultimately going to become expensive for the U.S. consumers, itself? Hi, David. This is Kanishka also joining in. I guess you couldn't hear me earlier. So I was asking, in this whole tariff play, with India getting 50% tariff, don't you think ultimately things are going to become expensive for U.S. consumers itself, because, imported goods will be expensive? And also, you've written, extensively previously about how tax policies can create inequality. So how do you think this is going to play out? Who will be the real winners and losers here?
Well, the tariffs on India and other countries absolutely are raising prices in the United States. And Trump had said not would just stop inflation or control it, but he would lower prices. That's not what's happening. Prices are rising. But there's a second element to tariffs. If the U.S. imposes tariffs on India and other countries, it allows competing domestic manufacturers here in the U.S. to raise their prices. Let me give you an example. Assume you make a car that you sell out the factory door wholesale for $10,000. You make $1,000. There's an Indian company like Tata Motors. It sells cars out the door for $10,000, but because of the tariff, it's now going to have to pay $15,000. Charge $15,000 to cover the tariff. Well, you're not going to leave your price at $10,000. You're going to raise your price to $14,900, and your profit per car is going to go from $1,000 to almost $6,000. And even if you sell only half as many cars, you're still going to make essentially 3 times as much profit. So tariffs are a scheme to allow domestic manufacturers to artificially inflate prices. Donald doesn't know this. He has a degree in economics from Penn, an Ivy League school in America, but he almost never went to class. He only studied real estate, and one of his professors called him the dumbest student I ever had.
We'll talk about that in greater detail. Stay on with us, but we also now have Mr. Gorov Sansenval, Fellow Chair on India and Emerging Asia Economics, CSIS. Mr. Sansanwal, morning, and thanks so much for joining us today. We were just talking about inflation and the kind of impact it will have on American consumers. If you can tell us, what does this mean for the world economy? Higher inflation in the US, several exporting countries of India are also likely to be negatively impacted.
Tendencies are likely to obviously come in with the tariff uncertainty. There was a State Bank of India research a few days back which basically predicted about a 2% increase in US inflation, leading up to about $2,500 of extra expenditure that an average American household would need to incur to be able to make up for the rise in the prices of goods which the US is going to face. Which is why I always say, given the tariff situation, while India may be feeling the heat, it is actually the US consumers who are likely to pay up the price for that, which is why the only way out of this is negotiation, and the two countries really need to sit across a table and negotiate, because otherwise this is really going to be inflationary, given everything that's happening with the economic uncertainty around tariffs as well as the immigration pressures. All of these are extremely inflationary. So I completely agree with you.
Okay. Hi Gaurav, this is Kanishka also joining in. I actually wanted to ask you about Russian oil as well, because Trump says all of this is because India buys oil from Russia. Now, if at all India decides to stop buying oil from Russia, or at least limit the amount that it buys, which are the other partners you could think that India can identify and start buying oil from, because we import the majority of the oil for our own needs. Hi Gaurav, I hope I'm audible now. I just wanted to ask you what do you make of the whole Russian oil situation, because Trump did say that all of this high tariff on India is coming because it continues to buy oil from Russia, which is a problem according to him. So if India decides to move away from that and diversify its oil import sources, so where do you think, which are the other partners that India could look at?
Some audio issue. Mr. Sansanwal is not able to hear us, but Mr. Sansanwal and sir, thank you so much for taking your time out. David, for joining us and helping us understand what this means for the world economy. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us with all those details. So that's how Indian market is positioned at the moment. But on that note, let's slip into a short break and we'll be right back on the other side.